Welcome to this edition of Project America. And obviously by the title we are going to talk about square foot gardening. It's a little overview of what it's all about and how you can benefit from it. About a week ago I went to a local seminar we had at our library. It was put on by one of our master gardeners here in our county, and he also happened to be a certified square foot gardener. So I decided to go, not just, I already knew about square foot gardening, but I just wanted to go for more of a social aspect, meet people, kind of network with people who are interested in gardening, especially urban gardening or square foot gardening, raised bed gardening, things like that. So I went to it and it was a great presentation and it was so cool. The next day I came home and I built these. Again, I live in a townhouse here in town. It's very limited space, so I had this little area of mulch next to our walkway out of the house, and it was perfect to put in this 4 foot by 4 foot bed, as well as a 3 foot by 3 foot, which my 13-year-old is going to take care of that one. But basically, square foot gardening, the reason it's a little different from just your traditional raised bed gardening is it gives a little more control aspect to it by marking off with a grid the square foot sections. You concentrate more on treating each section and not just an entire raised bed, and kind of keep you more in control from, okay, maybe I'll plant a little outside that, but basically with the square foot gardening you have the grid, so you stay within the grid and therefore get a higher yield out of your raised bed. Now, basic principles here, the square foot gardening, the 4x4 is the standard garden size, basically because it's easy for you to reach 2 feet in no matter where you are around it. You don't have to build it 4 feet by 4 feet, but you want to build it so you can reach everything. You could do 4 feet by 2 feet if you want. You can do 2 foot by 2 foot, and then the depth is 6 inches. And I know a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, tomato plant needs more than 6 inches of soil depth. And as you can see here, I have 2 tomato plants that were given to us when we went to the square foot gardening seminar. But basically, the roots will go out horizontally if they don't have enough, to go down into. Because when you build your bed, you also put landscape fabric at the bottom, or newspaper or cardboard or something to keep the weeds down. And that's the other advantage of square foot gardening, is there's no weeding. There's not as much water needed because you're not watering this big garden with a sprinkler. Also seeds, you don't use as many seeds because in traditional row gardens, people will just put a bunch of seeds down a row and then weed them out as they come up to get the proper spacing. So with square foot gardening, you have the control, you have less water usage, you have less seed usage, and you have the minimal soil depth of 6 inches. Now if you want to build it 12 inches deep, you can. If you want to grow carrots, full-size carrots, and you have a 6-inch bed, then you just build another 1 foot high box around however many squares you want and add that much soil. That's the advantage to square foot gardening. Now, one question I had that came up is pressure treated wood versus non-pressure treated wood, because I'm trying to garden as organic as I can, and I thought, well, I'll just go with non-pressure treated wood. But pressure treated wood, as the master gardener pointed out, is no longer used. They don't use arsenic anymore in the pressure treating process, so you don't have to worry about that. That's the big concern with pressure treated wood. Also, we had a representative for our local extension office there. He said anything that's in the wood is only going to leach out just a little bit. It's not going to contaminate the whole soil. So leaching is not a problem. So I went with pressure treated wood. And what you want to use is a 2 by 6, and then whatever size length you're using. And at my local Lowe's, they have pressure treated 2 by 6 by 8s that are $4.57 each. So you can see there, you just get 2 of those. You have them cut them right there if you want, and you've got $9 worth of wood. And then to put them together, use screws. Don't use nails, because nails can pull apart from the pressure of the roots or the weight of the soil. Use screws to put it together. And then obviously a 4 foot by 4 foot by 6 inch deep bed will require 8 cubic feet of soil. Now, if you want to know what kind of soil they recommend, go on squarefootgardening.org. This is written by the guy who invented the whole square foot gardening process. He's got a little formula on there of how you should mix your soil. You don't want to use soil that you dig up on your property because that could have weed seeds in it, whereas the bag soil is sterile. There are no weed seeds. That way you don't have to worry about weeding your garden. And you can also go to Lowe's and Home Depot and request the Square Foot Gardening soil bags. I don't know how much they are. I went with something different. I just used the Stay Green soil from Lowe's, which it's not fully organic, but it's natural, but it does have a little fertilizer, and it's only $6 a bag. So 4 bags to fill this bed. So you have $9 worth of lumber in it, a couple dollars worth of screws, and then $24 worth of bag soil. Now the only thing about the Stay Green soil is it has a lot of bark in it, so it's kind of tough to plant the top, especially real shallow, like carrots. They like to be right under the surface. So you might have to adjust there, use a little fine peat or something to cover them up till they get sprouted. But all in all, I think this Stay Green, hopefully it'll work out. We'll see by the end of the summer. I've never used it. Now the other thing here with the grid, you can see on mine I use string, and they tell you don't use string because obviously it's going to get caught up in the plants. It can rot easily, it can come apart, and that breaks your grid. But I had spent so much on containers and soil and gardening for this year's project that I just went with string because I was on the cheap. I'm sure in a later episode when I show this again I'll probably remove the string. But you want to use something like bamboo or just some small slats or something and screw it down to the frame of your square foot garden. That way it's more permanent. Like I said, I'm sure I'll regret the string later, but we'll see what happens. This bed here in particular, we have just planted it. We actually just had a night where it was down in the mid-30s, so I kind of thought I was a little late on planting, but I'm not. I still have to plant these last 2 squares. But basically these 4, I have the Burpee deck corn, the sweet corn. It only grows to be about 4 foot tall. And I put 4 plants to each square. And you can see I've got tomatoes here. I've got some spring onions, some radishes, 2 kinds of radishes, 2 kinds of beets, and things like that. And you can plant a lot. That's the other advantage of square foot gardening. Like in my beets, I've got some early beets that I have 16 plants per square foot. So you can see the yield can be incredible. And again, links in the description where you can find some recommended planting. If you look at a 4 foot by 4 foot bed, you can grow an incredible amount of food. Like I said, I'm doing 16 beets. In the little spring onions, which you harvest, they're only about the size of a pencil when you harvest them. I actually have 24 per square foot. So those are an heirloom Lisbon green onion. So we'll see how those work out. But you can grow an incredible amount in a very small space. And again, the grid is what keeps you in control of what you're growing. Now when you put this together and you buy 4 foot sections, 4 foot lumber, especially if you get it cut for you at Lowe's like I did, I had to haul it in a car. So I'd let them cut it, plus they have a nice saw, it cuts real even. You're obviously not going to wind up with exactly 4 feet. But the construction of it, basically, as you can see here, you want to make it a square, so don't put 2 4 foot boards down and then put 2 at the end, or you wind up with a rectangle. You want to do like I have them here, so you come out with a nice square. And one advantage, one easy thing to do is I did this in my garage where the concrete is nice and flat and smooth, and you just lay the boards down. You find you know, where the bows and edges are, it'll make it lay flat. I just laid it down, screwed it all together. It literally took me all of about 15 minutes to build this bed. I'm here on a hill, so I actually had to add, on this side it's 12 inches high, and on this side it's 12 inches high because it's built on a slope. But inside I filled it up with mulch because I'm sitting on top of mulch here. I filled it up to mulch, so it's actually only 6 inches of soil before I laid my landscape fabric down, just to conserve soil. I didn't want to go the full 12 inches deep. And oh, carrots, that was the other thing I have in here. I have some little tiny Atlas carrots that only grow to be a few inches long. But I just went with the 6-inch depth, and like I said, if you want to raise it up, just put a box right on top of it and put more soil in. Of course, be careful with shade. from that box around your other crops. That's why my corn is back here, because the way the sun is here, it's not going to shade my garden. But I really like this concept. It was a great use of the space. Plus the 3x3 box, got my 13-year-old interested in it. He's got it all planted. I'm sure he'll get real excited once he sees the stuff start sprouting through. But anyways, that's a quick crash course on square foot gardening. I think if you're going to do raised beds, you might as well do the square foot method, and that way you just get a better yield out of it. This can also be adapted to, if you want to put it up on legs, just use a piece of plywood on the bottom that has some holes drilled in it for drainage. So if you have somebody that's elderly, or somebody's in a wheelchair, somebody with a bad back, you just elevate the whole thing, do the same concept. If it's somebody that's, you know, in a wheelchair or elderly, you might only want to make it a 2-foot by 4-foot bed. That way they can walk around, they can easily reach everything. You can do a 1-foot by 8-foot, whatever you want to do. But the key is just make it segmented off in square feet, and that way you can concentrate on each little square, harvest, replant, rotate your crops, you know, and you'll get a maximized yield out of a square foot garden, way better than you would just a raised bed that you kind of randomly plant. So I hope that helps. Comment in the comments, share this video, and let me know how your square foot gardening process is going.